هنبلش. Good evening, everyone. Ready? Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for joining us today to mark this special and momentous occasion, the inauguration of the Palestine Land Studies Center at AUB. It's my absolute pleasure and honor to welcome all of you in attendance, as well as those who are joining us via live stream, especially those watching from Palestine. To all Palestinians struggling for their rights in Sheikh Jarrah, in Gaza, in Naqab, and throughout Palestine, I say power to you. It's been an incredible privilege to serve as founding director of the Palestine Land Studies Center and to be offered the opportunity to contribute to making more visible and concrete the position of Palestine at the heart of AUB's academic pursuit and inquiry for justice. For that, I owe many thanks to a lot of people. I would like to take this opportunity to thank President Fadlu Khouri and former Provost Mohammed Harajli for the trust they have bestowed on me. I would also like to thank the many individuals who played key roles along the way in getting us here today. Provost Zahir Dawi, Dr. Imad Balbaki, and Dr. Lina Shwairi were critical. Their constant support and guidance was so important. The PLSC research team, coordinators Ali Khudr, Michael Avanzato, and Shaza Jazar for their hard work and dedication, and our very first student researcher, Bana Madi. Of course, the greatest of thanks and most precious words of appreciation go to Dr. Sanman Abu Sitta for choosing AUB as the home for his precious archives and for his inspirational passion and commitment. We are super grateful for his generous gift, which was the key to prompt the establishment of the Palestine Land Studies Center at AUB in September of 2019. I'm personally thankful also for the great friendship that grew between us. The center received the precious collection of books, maps, reports, aerial satellite views of Palestine, and was the seed to establish the research center with a particular vision. The Palestine Land Studies Center is to be a catalyst for interdisciplinary research and a global hub for grassroots investigations and dialogues around the question of land and population in Palestine. It is also to uphold the rights of Palestinian people, particularly the right of return. Towards that vision, a clear mission was established to document all aspects and questions related to land and population in Palestine, to build on and expand Dr. Abu Sitta's archive, to produce knowledge and disseminate it through teaching, research, and public discourse, both at AUB and beyond. To set the vision and the mission on motion, a strategic plan was crafted for the 3 foundational years and was set in place with major tasks in parallel tracks and with specific milestones. Allow me today to share with you some of these milestones. Over the past 2.5 years, the advisory committee of the PLSC was formed with the following distinguished members on board: Drs. Lina Shwairi, Salman Abu Sitta, Ghassan Abu Sitta, Luna Abu Swaira, Khalil Hindi, Huda Zrey, and Nadia Abu Hajj. The steering committee was also appointed of distinguished colleagues at AUB whose teaching, research, or service addresses the Palestinian question. Professors Anahid Al-Hardan, Sari Hanafi, Karim Maqdisi, Livia Wick, and Rami Zurek. The PLSC also acquired an address, B03 West Hall, a space at the heart of AUB to temporarily accommodate its head office and house its archives. Into this space, and over the past 2 years, the archival material of Dr. Abu Sitta was transferred through multiple shipments, cataloged and placed in Jaffet Library or at the center. And here I'd like to also extend thanks to the Jaffet Library staff. The PLSC also acquired an identity that was designed with the help of the firm Levant, an identity that recalls the geography of Palestine, the kafia, and the color of its olive trees. Once the infrastructure was in place, the second year ushered the soft launch of the PLSC through the publication of its website and the launch of its annual lecture series. This year, we're celebrating 2 additional milestones: the launch of the search for a new director, as announced by Provost Zahir Dawi about a month ago, and today, the official inauguration of the center this evening, with all of you present here to support us. And today, I take this opportunity once more. I strongly believe that we have all the intellectual and the physical infrastructure in place to accompany the commitment AUB has to translate the vision into reality and to advance the cause with all of your support. Thank you once more for joining us, and welcome to the Palestine Land Studies Center at AUB. With that, I would like now to invite President Houri to deliver his opening remarks. Thank you.
Good evening, friends and colleagues, Dr. Abu Sitta, who I can see on the screen. Good afternoon if you're here. Good morning if you're in the US. It's really a profound pleasure and a privilege to finally welcome you all to the inauguration of the Palestine Land Studies Center at AUB, a landmark occasion in the history not only of this collection but of this university. The Palestine Land Studies Center stands as a testament to the extraordinary commitment, dedication, and the tireless energy of one man, Dr. Sanman Abu Sitta. The author of more than 400 articles and papers on Palestine, as well as several books, including the Atlas of Palestine, 1917 to 1966, and the Atlas of Palestine, 1871 to 1877, published a decade apart, Dr. Abu Sitta is an inspiring example to all of us of the difference that one individual and their resilience and dedication to a cause and an idea can make. He is a powerful and a sincere speaker, as many of you who are here today already know, and others will find out. The Palestine Land Studies Center is a testament to the enduring reality and the identity of Palestine. An abiding commitment to Palestine is one of the hallmarks, and I would say one of the tenets of this university. After all, it was at the American University of Beirut that the historian Dr. Constantin Zre named the Nakba of 1948, and where much of the Palestinian political and intellectual thought was forged. As a friend of mine said growing up, AUB may as well be AUP, for Palestinians and Protestants. Well, there are not many Protestants left behind, but I assure you, quite a few Palestinians. Here we've educated many of Palestine's most influential figures, and will continue to do so for the indefinite future, irrespective of the challenges. Former AUB President Stephen Penrose, who led this university between 1948 until his untimely death in 1954, was a particularly powerful and eloquent champion of the Palestinian people. When we were talking with Rania and with Dr. Sitta about where this collection should be, I made the remark, perhaps not as casually as I intended, that there was only one academic institution in the world that this belonged at. It was at AUB. Here it is safe, here it will endure, here it will grow, and here it will be sought by scholars for generation after generation. Thanks to Dr. Abu Sitta's extraordinary vision, his persistence, his generosity, AUB is now home to a unique collection of materials that span more than 150 years of Palestinian history. In an era of alternate facts and wandering truth, here is tangible, real evidence. Here is truth. This priceless archive, which Dr. Abu Sitta assembled, document by document over a period of many years on land studies and human geography related to Palestine, will enrich, inform, and empower research and teaching today and for generations to come. It is a resource not just for scholars, academics, and professionals, but for anyone interested in the fundamental truths about Palestine. Not to further make the case for AUB, but our extraordinary Dean Alan Shahadi and I were speaking to the Palestinian Minister of Education, Dr. Awartani, who is our graduate, AUB graduate, like so many Palestinian leaders are, talking about a collaboration with universities in Palestine and Lebanon to create reasons for the young to stay. And as he remarked, as Marwan remarked in his usually unfiltered manner, we're happy to work with any other university in Lebanon or the region. But for us, there is one university, a Jamia, which is AUB. This is where this collection belongs. This is one of many archives that are housed in the University Library's Archives and Special Collections Department that promotes the preservation of our institutional and regional heritage by collecting primary source and significant research materials that document the history of the university and of Lebanon and the region. No history has been more challenging to tell faithfully than that of the Palestinians. This is something I've known for most of my life and was brought home to me by people like Azzat Tannous and Isa Nakhli in New York. These are documents that are essential to the identity of the Palestinian people. So the Palestine Land Studies Center and other centers of excellence at AUB are a critical component of our vision, of our Vital 2030 strategic vision that seeks to ensure AUB's future success, relevance, and sustainability is anchored in the pursuit of truth, and truth through fact, not through alternate reality. That is who we are and who we must remain for the next decade and beyond. Special thanks to so many people that I don't have the time nor perhaps the mental acuity today to thank. Certainly some who have left us, like our extraordinary archives team leader, Dr. Shbaru, and the wonderful people like Samar Miati and others who continue to dedicate their time to this. But a special thanks to Dr. Huwaida Al-Harithi. She has given this effort everything to make this center something that Dr. Abu Sitta described in his inaugural lecture in November 2020, the hub of dynamic, powerful, and effective scholarship about the land and people of Palestine, and a shining light in the imposed darkness about Palestine's just cause. Thank you.
Thank you, President Khoury. Thank you so much. Now, of course, it's time for the intervention of Dr. Sanman Abu Sitta. Unfortunately, he could not be with us due to COVID restrictions. He is, I'm sure, with us in spirit and virtually. There is his daughter, Rania Abu Sitta, representing him here. So I welcome you, Rania. And he sent us his intervention via recording. So I will start that now and let you watch it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I was waiting for this day, the day when we get together to inaugurate Palestine Land Studies Center. Here we are now at this crowning moment, but unfortunately, situation in Lebanon, very well known to you, made it difficult for me to attend in person. I hope very soon the situation will change to the better. First, let me do a pleasant task. I would like to extend our thanks to President Khoury for his support of the establishment of Palestine Land Studies Center at AUB. Also, our thanks are extended to Dr. Imad Baalbaki and Professor Lina Shweri, who constantly worked on making this project come true for a number of years. I give credit also to Kaukab Shibaro, who now moved to the United States and who gave great support to the project from its inception. I reserve special and extended thanks to Professor Huwaida Al-Harithi, the founding director of BLSC. Huwaida shepherded the project through difficult times in Lebanon, not least during the corona ravages. We hope she will deliver the project in full force to a new directorship at the right time and to the right people. Ladies and gentlemen, I have just come from Gaza Strip after several decades of forced absence. I saw hundreds of thousands of school children going to school in the early morning. There are 500,000 of these children out of 2 million people in this tiny strip, only 30 kilometers by 12 kilometers. Why is it so crowded? The question always arises without anyone caring to find the answer. The people there were driven to Gaza Strip from 247 villages in the southern half of Palestine. They were attacked and depopulated by Israel in 1948, and they were pushed into this tiny strip. While in Gaza, I heard the constant hum of Israeli drones flying over our head day and night, causing disturbed sleep, anxiety, and even trauma among children. These drones and airplanes shower death and destruction on Gaza regularly. The enemy, which expelled them 73 years ago, still haunts them from the sky and reaches out to their classrooms. Now, UNRWA schools are under pressure from Western donors not to teach these children where they had come from, why they are refugees, and what is Nakba. They have to deny they are Palestinians coming from Jaffa, Majd al-Isdud. They have to deny their origin, their history and geography. Or else they will be deprived from funds to run the schools. Why do I tell you all this? On the day we are going to open a research center. Because the war against Palestinians, which started in 1948, and even earlier, a century ago, never stopped. It is not only military, it is a planned, persistent, and permanent war to erase the Palestinians' history and geography. I can personally testify that this war is deep-rooted, not only during al-Nakba, which I have witnessed, but ever since. 60 years ago, I had a cultural shock. In 1962, I was doing my PhD in engineering at the University of London. I was searching for maps of Palestine, but I could not find the name anywhere, neither in the Royal Geographical Society nor in the British Library. It turned out that the name Palestine was deleted and was replaced by the name Israel. And that was in Britain, which left Palestine only 10 years earlier, after 30 years of betrayal and bloodshed in Palestine. This denial started the Palestinians' long battle for recognition and survival. They often present the world with a faded picture of an old house, or a photo of a grandfather, a passport, or a stamp with the word Palestine on it, or a railway timetable. This is just to prove not an ancient history, not an archaeological relic, but a continuous reality of land and people, visible to the eye and registered in every official record. What a shame, what a shame, what a tragedy to deny the existence of a country which has a historical record longer than many European countries. I started on a long trek from the time my hair was black till it turned silver to collect every map, document, or record I could find about erased Palestine. It required a lot of traveling, searching, and inquiring. In the UK, for example, there are dozens of depositories of such material scattered all over the country, whether political, military, academic, or personal. There are sources in Germany, such as in Munich, housing the first ever aerial photos of Palestine in the First World War. There are sources in Paris, in the Bibliothèque Nationale, which houses Napoleon maps of Palestine in 1801. And of course, there is the US Library of Congress, which is a great source. Then you have the UN Library in New York and Geneva. This library is particularly relevant as it contains maps of the armistice agreements of 1948 and 9 and the subsequent Israeli wars. It has a special file on atrocities in 1948, that is massacres, a big but incomplete file. There are still untapped resources in the Vatican, in St. Petersburg in Russia, in the Ottoman archives in Turkey, and in many other places. From that harvest, we now have at PXC Library, we have 10,000 books from the 18th century to the present time. All such books describe our country, mostly by surveyors from Europe, the same where the myth that Palestine is a land without people was created. Also, we have 2,000 maps of Palestine in the last 200 years, listing a total of 55,000 names created by those imaginary people of the land. These names stretch over a record of 2,000 years. Also, there are 5,000 aerial photos of Palestine in 1945, taken just before the unceremonious, hurried departure of Britain from Palestine. Also, there are 300 aerial photos of Palestine by German Air Force, 1917 to 1918. This is the first record of air war. And of special value, there are 500,000 land property records at the UN. This is the record of Palestinian property seized by Israel, which amounts to 94% of the part of Palestine that became Israel. In addition, there are 14 volumes of the documentation about Palestine borders, separating it from the rest of the Arab world from 1833 to 1947. There are also several thousand fortnightly reports about every district in Palestine from 1920 to 1948. There are 12 volumes of Zionist and Israeli archives from 1830 to 1955. There are documents of the Red Cross, ICRC, on Palestine in 1948 to 1950 from Geneva headquarters. There are reports of the United Nations Truce Supervision Observers for Atrocities in Dag Hammarskjöld Library in New York. There are archives of American Friends Service Society, Quakers, on Palestine in Philadelphia, 1948 to 1950. As you may remember, the Quakers were the first to build the first refugee camps in Gaza. And there are many, many more. The question arises, what to do with all this data? Knowledge must be put to use to correct a mistake or to pursue justice. Let me give you an example. Barely 1 month after Oslo disaster, Edward Said wrote a scathing critique of Oslo. His every word sounds true today. What could an article by an intellectual do? Well, what followed is this. Lots of activities followed. Many luminary Palestinian personalities, such as Haider al-Shafi, Ibrahim Abu Lawad, Shafiq al-Houd, Nasir Aruri, and many others, organized conferences, wrote articles and petitions to expose Oslo fiasco. 22 years ago, I formed in London the Palestine Law Society. The idea was to represent our cause in a scientific, factual, and relevant manner. That is, in order to face the deluge of denial, deception, and misinformation which filled the Western cyberspace. Using the data we had, we produced over 400 papers and articles about the refugees, the right of return, and al-Nakba history. We also published books and atlases. Most notably, we published the Atlas of Palestine, 1948, and the larger Atlas of Palestine, 1917 to 1966, in 600 pages. Both depict every minute detail in Palestine at al-Nakba and just before and just after. The Atlas was first published in English, then an Arabic edition was published, and then, I hope, glad to say, will be in Spanish in a month or two. Last summer, we published the Atlas of Palestine 1871 to 1877. This depicts Arab Palestine before the onset of Zionist colonization. In this atlas, there is not a single Jewish colony in its 13,000 names register. We also published the Return Journey Atlas in 3 languages, Arabic, English, and Hebrew. It shows Palestine that we knew before al-Nakba, and we superimposed on it the Zionist colonization history of today. So we know what happened to each piece of land before and after Nakba. These atlases are now found in many universities and institutions. Although our enemies are numerous, there was no refutation of these facts. This is not the case of the political or historical analysis. So here, in this case, there is an advantage for this kind of work. So we ask again a question. What is the value of all this? We had to make this knowledge available to Arab students. And what is better choice than AUB to be the home for PLSC? It is not the function of AUB since 1866 to bring knowledge to this region. That is the case, which was achieved admirably. Many bright students cannot travel to Western countries because of visa restrictions or because of lack of funds. If we bring the research material from the West to AUB, then these students will have the opportunity to come to AUB to study it. So, in 2017, we started talking with AUB about setting up Palestine Land Studies Center. We got a very warm reception, for which I'm glad to have. Because of Corona, we delayed the inauguration until the appropriate time, and we hope it is today. But our plan is ready. What we want to do is to create a body of knowledge for 3 periods: past, present, and future. The past, the silenced and denied past, the near past in the last 100 years. We want to document the history of al-Nakba in terms of new understanding of international law, about war crimes, about ethnic cleansing, apartheid, universal jurisdiction, International Criminal Court, International Court of Justice, and the like. We wanted to know in more detail the Palestinian population at various periods, at home and after their dispersion, where they were and where they are now. We also wanted to re-examine recent history in the light of new knowledge. Interpretation of history is always changing as the law changes, as the sense of justice changes and takes a new meaning, and as it acquires a new weapon of enforcement. Then we have the present. We want to analyze what our adversaries plan for us beyond al-Nakba. As you know, the Israeli-inspired Western so-called peace plans presented to us over 55 schemes in the last 70 years. These plans, clothed in a peace garb, have similar features. None of them comply with international law. None of them force Israel to roll back its occupation or admit its war crimes or call for reparations. None of them endorse the inalienable right of return. All of them urge Palestinians to accept their expulsion and dispossession for a loaf of bread and a shelter, somewhere in the world, but outside Palestine. Almost all of these schemes have failed, almost, except one, Oslo, until today. Every book written on Oslo fiasco stated that if the Palestinian team possessed the knowledge, the facts, the documents, and so on, perhaps it could not have become the disaster it is today. Take the last scenario, the scheme of Trump and his son-in-law, so-called deal of the century. Whenever we analyzed this scheme on maps and in figures, it turned out to be no more than a quirk of Trump's imagination and his son-in-law, superimposed on well-known Israeli schemes. Such tragic comedy could not have materialized if we had available the irrefutable facts and a strong leadership. But it is in the future that we trust. Young Palestinians around the world are filling cyberspace with their achievements in all fields of endeavor. All they need is the ammunition for their travail. I hope they will make use of the huge database we have stored in PLSC. They already started in some way. We organize competition, now in its 6th year, among Palestinian and Arab architectural graduating students to reconstruct destroyed Palestinian villages in the same place and for the same people. We gave them large data about a number of villages to choose from. We asked them to prepare plans to rebuild it for the future and return with 10 times the population numbers, but with the amenities of 22nd century. The British jury who gave the awards for the winners were amazed at the creativity of these young people. There are many other ideas, but for PLSC, we presented about 3 dozen projects for the full-time researchers to be recruited for PLSC to work on these projects. They shall deal with future Palestine, its demography, what Palestinian and Jewish population will be there, and under what conditions. Palestine land ownership and its use, the urban landscape, and the reconstruction of the destroyed Palestine. Also, they will study the logistics of implementing the right of return and the legal and practical implications of unraveling occupation, apartheid, and racism. They will work on the documentation of war crimes and the role of international law in dealing with them. They will work on the due reparations. How can they be applied and implemented? They also work on the preservation and the updating of archives on Palestine, whether from enemy or friendly sources. They will work on the education of the young people and the correction of Palestine history in school curricula, especially in the West. They will work on the support of Palestine around the world, or lack of it, in fighting apartheid, occupation, racism, and colonialism. There are many, many subjects they could work on. But here at AUB, students can find in PLSC rich material for joint projects in all interdisciplinary fields in the following, for example: geography, cartography, history, archaeology, statistics, population studies, international law, the right of return, economics, contemporary politics, water engineering, urban planning, Palestine written and visual culture, Palestinian youth education, archive management, IT, and media. To do all this, it is imperative that PLSC should have full time of researchers. They will work on a number of ready but important projects. PLSC database need to be updated, continually expanded by new material which is becoming available every day. All this needs budget. This is a fact to be remembered. Now, let me turn to the young people and say to them the following. You do not need to wear a uniform and carry a gun to assert your identity or recover your lost home. You just need to be diligent and determined. Never despair, never lose hope, never betray your roots. Claim your own rights. You do not want to take anything from anybody. You just want to take back what's taken from you. This is a noble human endeavor. Remember that if there is no Palestine, there is no Lebanon, there is no Syria, there is no Egypt, and there is no history in the region in the last 2,000 years since Jesus Christ. This is what they want us to believe, but will never happen. This will never happen. So, in conclusion, our path is planned. The vehicle is here. What we need is the fuel to make it run. present a brilliant plan which will have an impact on our future. It can and will happen. With your help, let us make it happen soon. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you, Dr. Abu Sitta, so much for a very informative and inspiring speech, as usual. I wish you were here with us. But there will be many other occasions that we can get together and celebrate and encourage one another to move forward. I would like now to invite Dr. Imad Balbaki, Vice President for Advancement and Business Development at AUB, to give the closing remarks.
Thank you. Typically, vice presidents for advancement do not get to talk in these events. And I believe we're not invited to do so because people don't show up because they know we're going to ask them for money. So when my colleague and good friend and Dr. Huwaida asked me to do that, I immediately accepted the honor. And I did that for two reasons, really. One is because this is one of the most impactful, meaningful gifts I've worked on in my tenure at the American University of Beirut as a fundraiser. Really. And I did not want to miss that opportunity, so thank you, Huwaida. And we've worked a lot on this gift with so many people. They were mentioned, so I will not repeat the names. But particularly, I had the pleasure and the honor to get to know and to get to work with Dr. Sanman Abu Sitta, and to know him really very closely. We worked on this for many years. Not because there was any hesitation on his part or on our part that we want this to happen, but actually it is because we wanted to do this right, and I believe we did it right. So we're here. It's a great moment, and at AUB we are really honored to have this gift of vision of Dr. Sanman and the gift of the collection of Dr. Sanman, the priceless collection here at the university. Although this is a gift to AUB, and one that, as I said, we truly treasure, it is even more a gift to history and to the legacy of Dr. Sanman, but also to the living history of Palestine, which will always be carried in our hearts and our minds forever. And in keeping with Dr. Salman's wishes, we at AUB are committed to making this collection a living gift that would inform and that will enrich scholarship for generations to come. And for this to happen, now that's the second reason why I'm here, is that we need your support. We need the support of generations of donors, of generous donors, and I say generations because this is a gift in perpetuity, to fund initiatives at all levels under the umbrella of what we are calling Future Palestine. Gifts such as an endowed chair in Palestine studies, student fellowships, student scholarships, current and endowed research funds, seminars, funding seminars, lecture series, exhibits, and perhaps at the heart of all of this is making sure to take care and keep these priceless documents and collection alive at the university. Now, of course, we all know that these are very difficult times. These are not easy times to fundraise, not easy times for all of us. The economic collapse in Lebanon, the challenges in the region, and the continuing impact of the pandemic. but I know and I'm confident that we will be successful. We will be successful because of people like you who are here in person and who are here virtually. Each and every one of you have had a track record of commitment, of work, of effort, and of philanthropy to keep this ever-just cause alive. And I'm sure that you and us will find ways to make this happen so that we can support this critical initiative. I also take this opportunity, Dr. Sanman, to share with everybody that in addition to his extraordinary and priceless gift, Dr. Sanman has also initiated a research a research fellowship at the university in support of this initiative. So thank you again, Dr. Sanman. And as you've heard from President Khoury many times, despite these challenges, we at AUB remain a mission-driven organization, a mission-driven university, dedicated to the pursuit of excellence for its own sake and for the sake of the greater good and with the people that we serve. And this will not change, no matter what the situations are. Thank you a lot for coming. You will definitely hear more from me. Thank you for not leaving. We definitely hear more from me, and I know that you will find it somehow to support this great initiative philanthropically, whether in kind, whether in mind, or whether in through your wealth generosity. Thank you.
Thank you, Imad, so much for the closing remarks. With this, I think we come to the conclusion of this part of our inauguration program, the ceremonial part. I'd like now to invite you all to join us to visit and tour the exhibition that shows some of the material that was donated by Dr. Abu Sitta, and to celebrate it. And I want here to just point out that this was due to the help and design of two of my colleagues, Jad Milki and Ghaith Bughanim, and I thank them for their help and wonderful creative work. So please join us downstairs in the common room to show the exhibition of the material. And thank you so much again, and hope to see you in many, many returns. Thank you very much.